morning, students. After discussing shares, let's take another source of business finance, that is debentures. We can call it bonds also. So let's try to understand what do we mean by debentures, how do they help in business finance, and how does any business firm can raise funds through debentures. So debentures, basically these are the borrowed funds. We had seen in case of shares, they make up the capital, the permanent capital of the company, but debentures, that is a kind of debt, that is a borrowed fund. Another feature of debentures is debentures are usually issued at a fixed rate of interest. Basically, debenture, it is a certificate, it is an agreement between the debenture holder and the business firm, which states the amount of interest that would be paid on the amount invested by the debenture holder, and it also specifies the time duration for which this debenture can be held by the company. So there has to be a fixed rate of interest that will be paid to the debenture holder. Next is compulsory payment of interest. This payment, this interest that has to be paid yearly to the debenture holder, that is compulsory, whether the company makes any profit or it undergoes any loss, but it has to pay that interest to the holders on a regular basis. Next is security. Debentures are usually secured. A mortgage deed is executed by the company describing the terms and conditions of issue. In case of default by the company, the debenture holders can recover money from the mortgage property. So there is security in investing money in debentures. Next is redemption. The debentures, they are payable after a predetermined period during the lifetime of the company. So if you invest money in the shares, they are held by the company during the entire lifetime of the company. They can be repaid only when the company winds up. But in case of debentures, they can be redeemed as per the terms and conditions laid down. Debenture holders will not be holding any voting rights. So there is no ownership. They cannot interfere in the business matters, internal matters. Convertibility. Debentures carry an option to convert. There is an option that the debenture holders, they can convert their holdings fully or partly into equity shares after a specified period. So these are the features of debentures. Let's see how can we classify debentures on the basis of different factors. Firstly, on the basis of security, debentures can be secured or unsecured. What are secured debentures? Debentures may be secured. They may be secured if a mortgage deed is executed by the company describing the terms and conditions of issue. In case of default, if the company does not pay repay the amount invested by the holder and it does not pay any interest also, then कैसे उसकी security होगी? The mortgage property that can be held by the debenture holder. So there is security in investing money in the debentures. Unsecured, जिसमें ऐसा कोई mortgaging नहीं होगी, assets पर कोई charge नहीं होगा. Such debentures are unsecured and they do not carry any charge on the assets of the company. They are mere promises to pay without any security. On the basis of tenure, we can have redeemable debentures or irredeemable. Redeemable are those which are repayable after a predetermined period during the lifetime of the company. And irredeemable, these debentures are not repayable during the lifetime of the company. They are repaid only at the time of winding up of the company or when the interest is not regularly paid on the due date. Next, on the basis of convertibility, we can have convertible debentures and non-convertible debentures. As I told you earlier, debentures carry an option to their holders to convert their holding fully or partly into equity shares. Such debentures would be called convertible debentures, and if the holders of such debentures have no right to convert their debentures into shares, such debentures would be called non-convertible. Next, on the basis of registration, we can have registered debentures and bearer debentures. Registered debentures are those where the debentures are recorded in the company's books. Interest and principal sum is paid only to the registered holders. And if no record of the debentures is kept by the company, they can be transferred by simple delivery without any formal notice to the company. Such debentures would be called bearer debentures. Let's now see the advantages of debentures. First one is, since there is a regular payment of interest, whether the company makes profit or not, but interest has to be paid on a regular basis to the holders. So it mainly appeals to the cautious investors, people who would prefer going, who would prefer playing safe. जिनको जैसे shares में क्या होता है, usually people invest their money who are adventurous in nature, who would like to get higher dividends. जिनको ये लगता है कि कंपनी का अगर प्रोग्रेस होती है, if the company makes good profit, so they should be getting higher dividends. They would be investing their money in shares. But people who prefer going safe, they invest the money in debentures. Regular return, there is a regular payment of the interest. Safety of investment, if your debentures are secured in nature, if there is charge on the assets of the company, if a mortgage deed is executed, then there is safety of investment. It cannot be, the company cannot default. Economical source. Another advantage is that it is an economical source for the company. A company can raise funds through debentures at a relatively low cost. Freedom of management. Since the debenture holders carry no voting rights, so there is freedom of the management. There would be no interference of the debenture holders in company's matters. Flexibility. A company can repay the funds raised through debentures when it does not require the funds anymore. If the company is self-sufficient in its operations, in its financial status, then it can redeem the debentures. Such bonds can be redeemed, and the company has this flexibility. It does not need to carry this liability if it is self-sufficient. Tax relief. Interest paid on debentures is allowed a deduction while calculating taxable income. It results in saving in income tax liability. So these are the advantages. Let's now see the demerits or disadvantages of debentures. Disadvantages of debentures are permanent burden of interest. In case of shares, what we had seen, that dividend is paid only when the company makes a profit, otherwise not. But here what happens, in case of debentures, interest has to be paid on a regular basis at a fixed time. So that becomes a liability for a company. Reduction in credit standing. Having too much borrowed fund makes a company have lesser credit standing in the market. Next disadvantage of debentures is charge on assets. We had seen the secured debentures, they carry a charge on the assets of the company. The assets can be mortgaged. So this is another disadvantage of debentures. Reduction in dividends. If interest is paid to the debenture holders who are preferred, पहले उनका payment होता है interest का, and after that the dividend is paid to the shareholders. So that results in reduction of dividends. No voting rights. So this is another disadvantage of the debentures. And a disadvantage to the debenture holders, not to the company. All right. So let's now see the comparison between shares and debentures. What are the differences between the two? Both are sources of business finance, but in what ways are they different from each other? In, uh, in terms of nature, shareholders are the owners of the company. Since they make the capital of the company, they are considered the owners. And the debenture holders, they are creditors of the company. Voting rights, shareholders have the voting rights, debenture holders do not have any voting right. Returns, shareholders are entitled for returns in the form of dividend, which may vary from year to year. Because dividend कैसे पे किया जाता है? जितना कंपनी को प्रॉफिट होगा, that profit has to be distributed among the shareholders in the form of dividend. So that varies. In case of debentures, debenture holders are entitled for returns in the form of interest, which is fixed. कंपनी का कितना प्रॉफिट हो या लॉस हो, बट इन जो फिक्स्ड किया हुआ है इंटरेस्ट रेट वो पे करना पड़ेगा कंपनी को. कन्वर्शन, शेयर्स कैन नॉट बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू डिबेंचर्स. शेयर्स को लाइक प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू इक्विटी शेयर्स, बट नन ऑफ द शेयर्स कैन बी कन्वर्टेड टू डिबेंचर्स. बट डिबेंचर्स को कन्वर्ट किया जा सकता है. कन्वर्टेबल डिबेंचर्स कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू इक्विटी शेयर्स. Obligations of return. Dividend is appropriation of profit. Dividend will not be paid if losses are incurred by the company. But interest is charged against profit. Interest is payable even if there is no profit. That is the difference between shares and debenture. Shares में dividend तभी पे होगा अगर कंपनी को प्रॉफिट हुआ है. बट जो डिबेंचर्स पे इंटरेस्ट पे होना है वो रेगुलर होगा कंपनी का, चाहे प्रॉफिट हो चाहे लॉस हो. रिस्क, इन्वेस्टमेंट इन शेयर्स इज अनसिक्योर्ड. वहाँ पे कोई सिक्योरिटी नहीं है. अगर कंपनी को पूरा लॉस होता है, कंपनी शट्स डाउन, इट हैज़ टू वाइंड अप, देन द इन्वेस्टमेंट में आई मीन इट मे जस्ट गेट लॉस्ट. कुछ उसका रिटर्न अश्योर्ड नहीं है. बट इफ डिबेंचर्स आर सिक्योर्ड, अगर सिक्योर्ड टाइप के डिबेंचर्स लिए हुए हैं तो उसमें क्या होगा, देयर इज लाइक चार्ज ऑन द एसेट्स, सो दे आर लेस रिस्की एज द रिस्क इन्वॉल्व इन द secured against the assets. The issue of shares at discount need adherence to the restrictions imposed by the Section 79 of the Company Act. In case of debentures, there are no such restrictions for issuing debentures on discount. Next point of difference between the two is payment at liquidation. Payment to the shareholders is made after settlement of all external liabilities after debenture holders. सारी external liabilities पहले कंपनी और बिजनेस फर्म पहले सेटल करेगी, बाद में डिविडेंड्स का पेमेंट होगा, बाद में शेयर होल्डर्स का जो उनका जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है उसका लिक्विडेशन बाद में होगा. बट इन केस ऑफ डिबेंचर्स, payment to the debenture holder is made before the shareholders. So these all are the differences between shares and debentures. So this is all for today. Have a nice day.